with all of the models ready, we now need something to cover the tree and the ground with. So let's create some stylized grass and leaves, and I want to start with leaves first. So if you don't have the cursor in the middle of your scene, hold Shift S, cursor to world origin. And now let's press Shift A and we'll start with the plane. So let's add one, and now press G then Y and move it to the side so it doesn't get in the way. Now let's press Tab into the edit mode, press S to scale down tiny bit, something like this. We'll adjust this later. And now press 7 on a numpad for the top view. Let's zoom in a little bit. Now let's press S then X to scale on the X-axis like this. And let's create 2 cuts. So I'll press Ctrl R and increase number of cuts with the mouse wheel like this and confirm, right click to release. And now let's switch to the vertex select. So let's press 1 and select these top vertices and press S to scale them down like this. Now select the other pair, press S, scale it down, and the last 2 vertices, press S and scale it down. Okay, I think this will do, maybe a little bit more. Now let's tab out and press Ctrl 1 to apply subdivision modifier, and now we can tab back in and press Ctrl R to cut in the middle like this and right click to release. And now let's drag selection around these middle vertices right there. Let's rotate view a little bit, and I want to push them up. So let's press G then Z and move them up like this to create a leaf. Okay, and now I want to select these 3 vertices in the middle. So by holding Shift, let's select them and let's press Ctrl B to bevel, and let's increase the number of cuts to 3. So we have something like this in the middle. And now let's just click here to enable auto merge, select this vert, press G twice to enable slide and slide it all the way here to merge it in the front. And now we can select these 3 vertices in the middle again and press G then Z and move them down to create that leaf ridge. And now let's look from the top again, select all, press G then Y and move it to the side so it sits on the origin point here. And now let's tab out, right click and shade this smooth, and maybe we can adjust the scale a little bit. So let's press S then Y and scale it a little bit down so it's a little bit more wide. Okay, and let's press Ctrl A and apply the scale. And now we can just press Shift D to duplicate, R to rotate, and enter 120 degrees. Let's confirm. And now press Shift R to repeat like this. And let's now select them all, and the original one as last, so it's active, highlighted in yellow, and let's press Ctrl J to merge them. And now I don't want to just distribute them around the tree with the particle system. I want to do a little bit more stylized treatment where we lay them around in layers, and I think it will look really good in the end. So first of all, we need some shape to use as a template for this layer. So let's move the cursor here. I will hold Shift S and snap cursor to select it. And now let's press Shift A, mesh. And if you have extra objects add-on active, you should be able to see the round cube option right here. So let's click that, and we'll need to change the preset to quad sphere. And we can leave the resolution as is. So let's tab in, and I want to move this down a little bit. So let's press 1 on a numpad to look from the front. Let's press G, then Z, and move it down like this so it sits on the origin point. And now I want to select some vertices here, so we'll need to enable X-ray. I will hold Z, toggle the X-ray, and let's drag a selection like this. You should be able to drag the selection in a way that you hit these vertices but don't touch these at the top. And right now I just want to delete the selection, so let's press X and delete these vertices. And the one last thing here, let's tab out, let's press S to scale it up a tiny bit, and additionally S and Z to scale it on a Z axis and flatten it a little bit like this. Okay, and don't forget to press Ctrl A and apply the scale. So this will serve as our template. We can shade it smooth, it doesn't really matter. And right now select the leaf, and we'll need to go to the snap options, switch to the face snapping, and enable align rotation to target and project individual elements. And now we are able to press G, and by holding Ctrl, snap this to the surface of this template. So let's move it to the corner here, and let's scale it down like this. And what we need to do right now is to just duplicate them around and find some interesting placements around our template so we form that layer of leaves that we'll use on the tree. So let's press Alt D in case we want to modify the leaves a little bit later, and let's hold Control and snap them somewhere. Press R, Z twice to rotate on a local Z axis, or you can always move them by holding Control and then press R twice to enable trackball rotation, and then R, Z twice to enable rotation around the local Z axis. And I will repeat this process right now. So, go ahead and find some placements that have a nice variation. You can, of course, move them a little bit around. You don't need to leave them snapped on that surface. This will serve just as a guideline for us. So let's press Alt D again and move it maybe somewhere here. R twice to rotate. And we can, of course, turn off X-ray so we can better see the overlaps here and there. Okay, I think this will be enough. So right now we can just select the template, press X and delete. And now just pick one in the middle. Let's press Alt R to reset the rotation. So basically you can rotate then on the Z axis, but we want rotation on X and Y axis to 0. And now let's just select all of them with the last one as active. And let's press Ctrl J to join them all. So we now have this layer. And what I want to do next is to look from the front. Let's press Shift D and move it a little bit down like this and rotate. And rotate on the Z axis as well. Maybe move to the side a tiny bit. So we kind of create a little bit more density for the leaves like this. And maybe we can move it a little bit more up. Okay, I think this will do. And let's just select the bottom one and merge it into the first one. So shift click the top one, press Ctrl J to join, and we are basically finished with this. So right now you can just press G, and with the snapping option still enabled, we can press G, hold Control and snap it on the tree like this. And of course we can press Alt R to reset the rotation, press S to scale in place, and move it around a little bit. And right now what we want to do is basically place them on the endpoints of these branches, so it looks like they kind of grow out of there. So let's press Alt D and move this one down, R then Z to rotate. And just be careful to sometimes rotate them and move them around so they are distributed in 3 dimensions properly and they're not just stacked on top of each other, so that the tree actually gains some volume there. So let's continue with distributing this all around. like this. And when you run out of branches, you can place some of them just like that, without any branches around. It won't be probably noticeable in the end, and you will gain a lot more volume there. And maybe one here as well. And now have a look at your tree, and you know, some of them you can rescale and additionally rotate. Find the configuration that best suits your design here, and in the end, you know, you can just go around and scale some of them, adjust the rotations a little bit, you know, to find some better look that you really like. And you know, this is what you get in the end. And for the easier manipulation, you can just select all with the tree, shift click the tree to make it active. Let's press Ctrl P. So right now we are able to just select the tree and move it around like this. And yeah, so this is the tree, and now let's move on to the grass. So first we'll need to create the grass blades, and we'll use a new plane for that. So let's press Shift A, add a plane, and now let's tab in, scale it approximately to half like this. Now let's look from the top, and additionally we'll scale it on the X, similar as with the leaves, to have something like this. Now Ctrl R, increase to 2 cuts with the mouse wheel, just as before. And just as before, select these vertex pairs and press S, then X to scale them down like this. These two as well. And the bottom ones, maybe here it's too wide. So we are looking at something like this. Maybe a little bit wider. Okay, and now press Ctrl R and create a support loop right there at the bottom, so we can later enable the subdivision surface. Now select all, press G, then Y, and move it up like this. Tab out and let's enable that subdivision, so press Ctrl 1. And now back to the top view by pressing 7 on the numpad. Let's press Shift D, X, and move it to the right. We'll create a new duplicate. Be careful not to accidentally hit Alt D. We want completely new copy, so press Shift D. Let's confirm, and now tab in. And right now we'll just create another type of grass blade. So we have some variation there when we create the particle system. So let's now select these three vertices at the bottom. And let's press E to extrude like this. And let's switch to the edge select by pressing 2. Select this edge and let's press E to extrude to the side like this. And after extrusion, you can press R to rotate a little bit and S to scale just a tiny bit. And now press E again to extrude once more. Maybe a smaller piece and scale down like this. Okay, so this will be the other type of the grass blade. Maybe I want to move this to the side tiny bit. Okay, now tab out and one more duplicate here. So Shift D again, press X, move it to the side. And let's move it a little bit more because I want to extrude to the other side now. Let's go to the vertex select by pressing 1. Select these vertices and let's extrude twice here. So press E, confirm, and then once again like this. Now select these three verts and press E to extrude to the side tiny bit like this. And now I want to extrude these separately, so just select these two vertices, extrude somewhere here, and let's scale it down. And now these two, let's scale them down, press E to extrude and scale down again. And we can now adjust this a little bit to get some better shapes. And I want to move these bottom vertices around a little bit to round it up. Okay, now select all, press G and place it a little bit better on that origin point like this. Okay, I think this will do. And after you tab out, just select them all. Let's tab in and we want to modify them together a little bit. So let's select the tips. So drag selection around these two vertices, hold Shift and select these other verts as well. And now let's rotate a little bit. We'll enable proportional editing, so press O and now press G then Z, and let's reduce the radius with the mouse wheel and just push these tips a little bit down like that. Okay, I think this will be enough, so tab out, right click and shady smooth, and let's press M to move them to a separate collection, and let's create a new collection. Let's call this grass. Let's confirm, and for now we just want to disable this collection. Now let's reset the cursor, so Shift S cursor to world origin, and let's focus on our scene. Now we'll select the ground, and let's go to the particle tab, and let's create a new particle system. I want to leave this set to emitter instead of hair. A lot of times I get questions why I prefer standard emission to hair when I'm creating a grass. To be honest, I kind of like the controls over the rotation and distribution of these leaves better with the standard emitter than with the hair. So yeah, that's about it. I don't find it too complicated to like disable physics and set emission start and end to 0. So yeah, and it kind of offers me better control of the rotation and placement. So that's about it, and right now we can go ahead and set these settings. So first of all, I will set the frame start to 0, so we start emitting right away, and end to 0 as well, so all the particles exist at the frame 0 at once. And now I will go to the physics, and instead of physics type Newtonian, I will select none, because I don't want them to fall when we hit play and use timeline accidentally or something. So we'll just use this particle system for the distribution on the frame 0. And now let's go to the render tab here, and you probably know how to use this by now, but we'll use a different approach right here. And instead of object, I want to choose the entire collection. So let's switch to collection, and in the instance collection, let's pick the grass collection that we deactivated. So let's pick that one. And one other thing I want to do is to click pick random. This will ensure that we get random grass blades from the collection. And now we can just play with the scale and scale randomness. So I want to set this to something like 0.8 and the randomness to something like 0.5. So we have some variation there. I think this will do. And now let's go to the rotation, let's enable it. And I want to play just with the face, because that's this kind of rotation here. And I want to leave it to 0, but I want to randomize it a little bit. And let's set this to something like 1.5, I think. That will give us this nice rotation all over the place. And now we just need to paint some vertex groups to determine where the grass is actually growing. So let's go to the object data properties and create a new vertex group. Let's call this grass. Now go back to the particle settings, scroll all the way down to the vertex groups and pick grass vertex group for the density and length. This does nothing so far because the group is empty, so basically the particle system doesn't take it into account whatsoever. And now we'll switch to the weight paint mode, so you can either do that here or hold Ctrl Tab and switch to weight paint. And now we can start painting the areas where we want the grass to grow. So I'll press period on a numpad to focus better, and let's start here behind the tower, and we can just start painting the patches of grass right here and behind the tree as well. And sometimes just one click is enough to define some place for the grass to grow, and here as well. Be careful around the rocks, you don't want the grass to grow through them too much. So if you can avoid it, try to. Okay, I think this will be enough. Of course, you're welcome to play with the weight painting however you want. And now just hold Ctrl Tab, switch back to object mode. And now the last thing, just go back to the particle settings and let's set the number to something that better fits our weight painting. I think I ended up at somewhere around 2000 particles here. So we can set this as a starting point. And I think this is dense enough. And again, you know, find some settings that you really like. Try different weight painting, try different number of particles. You can of course play with the size of the grass and the rotation and all that stuff to find the best possible result for you. I will leave it like this for now, and basically all of the modeling is now finally complete. We did all the block out, all the sculpting, and the mesh modeling and the grass distribution. Congratulations for getting all the way here. There are only 2 steps left for us, and that's to create materials and add some beautiful lighting. And as you know, that's the part that I enjoy probably the most. So let's not waste any more time and let's get right to it.